The Secret of the Ages, by Robert Collier. Chapter 1. The World's Greatest Discovery. What, in your estimation, constitutes the most significant discovery of this modern era? Is it the finding of dinosaurian eggs upon the plains of Mongolia, deposited, as scientists assert, some 10 million years ago? Is it the excavation of the tomb of the living image of Ammon, with its peerless specimens of a bygone civilization? Or perhaps the radioactive geochronometer by which Professor Lane of Tufts College estimates the age of the Earth at 1,250,000,000 years? Is it wireless telegraphy, the flying machine, man-made thunderbolts? No, it is none of these. The true significance of these achievements lies in the fact that from all this vast research, and from the investigation of these bygone epochs, humanity is for the first time beginning to comprehend that primordial life principle which, by some means and at some distant juncture, was introduced to this earth thousands or millions of years ago. We are beginning to obtain an inkling of the infinite power it places at our disposal, and to glimpse the boundless possibilities it unfolds. This represents the preeminent discovery of modern times, that every individual may invoke this life principle at will, that it serves the human intellect as obediently as the fabled genie of the lamp once served Aladdin of old, and that one need only comprehend its nature and operate in harmony with it to secure any necessity, be it health, happiness, opulence, or success. To appreciate the veracity of this premise, one has only to reflect briefly upon the origin of existence. In the beginning, it is of little consequence whether one believes that mankind dates back to the primitive hominid of 500,000 years ago, or emerged fully formed from the mind of the Creator. In either event, there must have existed a first cause, a Creator. Some sovereign power was required to introduce to this planet the initial germ of life, and the act of creation is no less wondrous if it commenced with the humblest form of botanical life, ascending through countless ages to the zenith of contemporary civilization, than if the entirety of existence had been brought forth in 6 days. In the beginning, this earth was merely a nebulous fire mist. Whether 6,000 or 1,000,000,000 years ago is of little import. The sole matter of consequence is that at some juncture, by some method, there arrived upon this planet the germ of life, the life principle that animates all of nature, whether plant, animal, or man. If we accept the scientific consensus, the primary form in which life manifested upon the earth was the humble seaweed, a gelatinous mass drifting upon the waters. This, according to scientific authority, marked the genesis, the very dawn of terrestrial life. Subsequently, the initial vestige of animal life emerged, the lowly changeable one, a sort of gelatinous organism consisting of a single cell, devoid of a skeletal structure, and possessing very little else to distinguish it from the surrounding waters. Yet, it possessed life, the primordial spark of animal existence, and from that life, according to scientific tenets, we may trace the lineage of all that we possess and all that we are today. The myriad forms, shapes, and varieties of flora and fauna that have since emerged are merely diverse manifestations of life, adapted to meet fluctuating environmental conditions. For millions of years, this primordial life germ was menaced by every conceivable peril, by inundations, earthquakes, droughts, arid desert heat, glacial cold, and volcanic eruptions. Yet, to this resilient force, each subsequent danger served merely as an incentive to discover novel resources and to manifest life in some unprecedented form. To satisfy one set of requirements, it fashioned the terrible lizard. To satisfy another, the butterfly. Long before it ascended to the level of humanity, Its boundless resourcefulness was demonstrated in 1,000 ways. To evade danger within the aquatic depths, it sought the shore. Pursued upon the land, it took flight into the air. To respire within the sea, it developed gills. Stranded upon dry land, it perfected lungs. To counter one form of peril, it cultivated a protective shell. To counter another, a venomous sting. To shield itself from glacial cold, it grew fur. In temperate climes, hair. When subjected to alternating heat and cold, it produced plumage. Yet invariably, from its very inception, it demonstrated its capacity to adapt to every fluctuating condition and to satisfy every organic need. Had it been possible to extinguish this life concept, it would have perished eons ago, when fire, deluge, drought, and famine ensued in rapid succession. However, obstacles, misfortunes, and cataclysms served merely as novel opportunities for it to assert its sovereignty. Indeed, it required adversity to awaken its dormant potential and to demonstrate its inherent energy and resourcefulness. The great reptiles and monstrous beasts of antiquity vanished from the earth, yet the life principle endured, adapting as each epoch shifted, ever developing, ever refining itself. Whatever sovereign power bestowed this life concept upon the earth, it arrived endowed with infinite resource, inexhaustible energy, and limitless vitality. No opposing force can subdue it. No obstacle can impede its progress. Throughout the history of life and humanity, one can discern its guiding intelligence, be it termed nature, providence, or any other designation, arising to satisfy every vital necessity. The purpose of existence. No observer can trace its course through the ages without comprehending that the ultimate purpose of existence is development. Life is inherently dynamic, not static. It is perpetually advancing, never stationary. The sole unpardonable transgression against nature is stagnation, the cessation of progress. The giant southern lizard, which exceeded 100 feet in length and rivaled a mansion in stature. The tyrant lizard, which possessed the formidable power of a locomotive and represented the absolute zenith of terror. The winged finger or flying dragon, indeed, all the titanic monsters of prehistoric epochs have vanished. They ceased to serve a useful purpose. They were incapable of adapting to fluctuating conditions. They remained stationary, stagnating while the life surrounding them surpassed them. The Black Land and Persia, Greece and Rome, all the magnificent empires of antiquity, perished when they ceased to expand. The Middle Kingdom erected a wall about her borders and remained stationary for a millennium. Today, she has become the plaything of the great geopolitical powers. Throughout all of nature, the cessation of growth is synonymous with extinction. It is for those men and women who refuse to remain stationary, who decline to cease their development, that this treatise is written. It will afford you a more lucid comprehension of your own latent potentialities, demonstrating how you may cooperate with and harness the infinite energy that surrounds you. The anxiety of the traveler at the crossroads, uncertain of which path to pursue, shall hold no terror for you. Your destiny is of your own fashioning, for the singular law of infinite energy is the law of supply. The life principle is your own governing principle. To survive, to prevail, and to triumphantly surmount all impediments has been its habitual practice since the dawn of time. It remains no less resourceful today than it has ever been. You need only provide the impetus and operate in harmony with it to obtain whatever you require. For if this life principle is so potent within the humblest forms of animal existence that it can develop a protective carapace or a defensive venom to satisfy a need, if it can instruct a bird to soar and dart, to balance and fly, if it can regenerate a spider's severed limb, how much more can it accomplish for you, a rational, reasoning being, endowed with an intellect capable of cooperating with this life principle, and possessed of the energy and initiative to propel it forward. The evidence of this phenomenon surrounds you. Engage in some vigorous form of physical exertion, be it rowing, tennis, swimming, or equestrian riding. Initially, your muscles will be weak and easily fatigued. Yet, if you persist for several days, the life principle will promptly fortify and temper them to meet this new demand. Perform arduous manual labor, and what is the result? The skin of your hands becomes tender, blistered, and painful. If you persist, does the integument entirely wear away? On the contrary, the life principle provides additional thickness and resilience, termed calluses, to accommodate your need. Throughout your daily existence, you will observe this life principle steadily in operation. Embrace it, cooperate with it, assimilate it, and there is nothing you cannot accomplish. The mere fact that you must surmount obstacles operates in your favor. For when there is no task to perform, and when affairs proceed with excessive ease, this life principle appears to fall into slumber. It is precisely when you stand in direst need, when you summon it with utmost urgency, that this principle is most actively engaged. It differs from luck in this respect. Fortune is a fickle mistress who smiles most frequently upon those who require her assistance least. Wager your last penny upon the turn of a card. Permit nothing to stand between yourself and ruin save the spin of a wheel or the speed of a horse, and it is 1,000 to 1 that luck will desert you. Conversely, the opposite holds true for the life principle. So long as circumstances remain favorable, and life flows along effortlessly like a song, this life principle appears to slumber, secure in the knowledge that your affairs are self-sustaining. Yet, should adversity arise, and should ruin and disgrace stare you in the face, then precisely is the moment this life principle will assert its dominion, if you but afford it the opportunity. The open sesame. Of life there is a Napoleonic sense of power, which guarantees success, arising from the realization that this invincible life principle supports your every action. Cognizant that you have working with you a force that has never yet faltered in any undertaking, you may proceed with the serene confidence that it will not fail in your case, either. The ingenuity that surmounted every obstacle to fashion you into your present self is unlikely to prove deficient when you have immediate need of it. It represents the reserve strength of the athlete, the second wind of the runner, the power that, during periods of profound stress or excitement, you unconsciously summon to perform those deeds which you thereafter regard as superhuman. Yet, these acts are by no means superhuman. They are merely beyond the immediate capacity of your conscious self. Ally your conscious self with that slumbering giant within. Rouse him daily to his task, and those seemingly superhuman achievements will transform into your ordinary, daily accomplishments. W. L. Kane of Oakland, Oregon, writes, I know that such a power exists, for I once witnessed 2 youths, 16 and 18 years of age, lift a massive log off their brother, who had been pinned beneath it. On the following day, those same 2 youths, accompanied by another gentleman and myself, attempted to lift merely the end of the log, yet we could not budge it in the slightest. By what means were these two youths able to accomplish in their moment of need that which for individuals could not achieve later, when the necessity had subsided? It was because they never paused to question whether the feat was possible. They perceived only the critical necessity. They concentrated their entire intellect and energy upon that single objective, harboring neither doubt nor fear. Consequently, the genie residing within us all, awaiting only such a summons, answered their call and endowed them with the strength, not of 2 men, but of 10. It is of no consequence whether you are a banker or a lawyer, a businessman or a clerk, whether you are the custodian of millions or must labor for your daily bread. This life principle makes no distinction between the rich and the poor, the eminent and the lowly. The more profound your necessity, the more readily it will respond to your summons. Wherever an extraordinary task presents itself, wherever poverty, hardship, sickness, or despair prevails, there stands this servant of your mind, poised and willing to assist, requesting only to be invoked. Moreover, it is not merely willing and prepared, but is perpetually able to assist. Its ingenuity and resourcefulness are without limit. It is mind. It is thought. It is the telepathy that transmits messages without the aid of the spoken or written word. It is the sixth sense that warns you of unseen dangers. Regardless of how monumental and complex, or how simple your problem may be, its resolution resides somewhere within mind, within thought. And since a solution does exist, this mental giant can discover it on your behalf. It is capable of knowing, and it is capable of doing, every righteous thing. Whatever it is necessary for you to know, whatever it is necessary for you to perform, you can know and perform, if only you seek the assistance of this genie of your mind and collaborate with it in the proper manner. Chapter 2. The Genie of Your Mind. First occurred the Stone Age, an era wherein existence belonged to the strong of arm or the fleet of foot. Subsequently arose the Iron Age, and though human life was held in greater esteem, the powerful continued to dominate the weak. Later emerged the Golden Age, wherein wealth supplanted physical prowess. Yet the impoverished found little distinction between the slave-driver's lash of antiquity and the grim instruments of poverty and starvation. Presently, we are entering a new epoch, the mental age, wherein every individual may become his own master, where poverty and circumstance no longer wield absolute power, and the lowliest of creatures may secure a place alongside the highest. To those unfamiliar with the resources of the intellect, these assertions may seem rash. Yet science demonstrates beyond question that within the wellsprings of every individual's mind lie unplumbed depths and undiscovered reservoirs of energy, wisdom, and ability. Fathom these depths, elevate these treasures to the surface, and you acquire an astonishing wealth of newfound power. From the crude catamaran of primitive peoples to the colossal liners of the modern era, transporting thousands across oceans, lies but a single step in the progression of the mind. From the primitive cave dweller, cowering within his burrow in dread of lightning, fire, or water, to the contemporary engineer, who conscripts the forces of nature into service, there exists merely a difference in the degree of mental development. Bereft of a reasoning intellect, man would exist as the primates do, the prey of any beast swift and powerful enough to rend him asunder. Left entirely at the mercy of wind and weather. A wretched, timid creature, living solely for the fleeting moment, terrified of every shadow. Through the agency of his superior intellect, He learned to kindle fire for warmth, to fashion weapons for defense against the predatory beasts surrounding him, and to construct dwellings to shield himself from the elements. Through mind, he subjugated the forces of nature. Through mind, he has commanded machinery to perform the labor of millions of horses and billions of hands. What achievements he will next attain, no one can foresee, for humanity is only beginning to awaken to its inherent powers. Man is but obtaining a preliminary glimpse of the unfathomable riches buried deep within his own consciousness. Like the gold seekers of 1849, he has merely panned the surface gravel for the gold washed down by the streams. Now he begins to excavate more deeply to reach the pure vein beneath. We lament the depletion of our forests. We fret over our diminishing reserves of coal and petroleum. We decry the waste within our factories. Yet to the greatest waste of all we pay no heed, the squandering of our own potential intellectual power. Professor William James, the world-renowned Harvard psychologist, estimated that the average individual utilizes a mere 10% of his mental capacity. Though possessed of limitless capability, he employs but a tithe thereof. Surrounded by boundless wealth, he remains ignorant of how to grasp it. With godlike powers slumbering within, he is content to persist in his daily routine, eating, sleeping, laboring, and plodding through an existence scarcely more eventful than that of the beasts, while the whole of nature, indeed life itself, implores him to awaken and bestir himself. The capacity to become what you desire, to acquire what you wish, and to accomplish whatever you strive for, resides within you. It remains only for you to bring it forth and direct it into action. Naturally, you must understand how to achieve this. Yet, prior to learning how to utilize it, you must first recognize that you possess this power. Thus, our primary objective is to become acquainted with this formidable power. For psychologists and metaphysicians throughout the world are agreed upon this single truth, that mind is supreme. You may become whatever you resolve to be. There is no necessity to suffer illness. There is no necessity to endure unhappiness. There is no necessity to remain impoverished. There is no necessity to be unsuccessful. You are not a mere clod of earth. You are not a beast of burden, condemned to spend your days in unremitting labor in exchange for sustenance and shelter. Rather, you are one of the sovereigns of the earth, endowed with limitless potentialities. Within you resides a power which, when properly comprehended and directed, can elevate you from the rut of mediocrity and place you among the elect of the earth, the jurists, the authors, the statesmen, the captains of industry, the doers and the thinkers. It remains only for you to learn to employ this power that is yours, this mind which is capable of all things. For all practical purposes, your body is merely an instrument utilized by the mind. While this mind is commonly conceptualized as consciousness, the conscious aspect is, in fact, its most minuscule component. 90% of your mental existence operates subconsciously. Thus, when you actively employ only the conscious portion of your mind, you utilize but a fraction of your genuine capability, operating within a severely restricted capacity. The reason many individuals fail to achieve success in life is that a vast majority remain content to operate at this diminished capacity throughout their existence, relying solely upon surface energy. Were these same individuals to enlist the irresistible force of their subconscious minds in this endeavor, they would be astonished by their hitherto unimagined capacity for achieving success. The conscious and subconscious are naturally integral components of a single, unified mind. Yet, for the sake of analytical convenience, let us divide the mind into three distinct dimensions: the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the infinite, subliminal, or universal mind. The conscious mind, when you declare, "I see, I hear, I smell, I touch," it is your conscious mind that speaks, as it is the governing force behind the five physical senses. This is the mental phase through which you perceive and reason, the dimension of mind with which everyone is intimately familiar. It is the instrument with which you conduct your daily affairs. It regulates, to a significant degree, all voluntary muscular movement. It discriminates between right and wrong, wisdom and folly. It acts as the generalissimo, commanding all your mental forces. It possesses the capacity to plan for the future and to execute those plans systematically. Alternatively, it may drift aimlessly, a creature of impulse at the mercy of external circumstances, remaining a mere fragment of flotsam in the current of existence. For it is solely through the medium of the conscious mind that one may access the subconscious and the universal mind. Your conscious mind serves as the porter at the door, the sentinel at the gate. It is to the conscious mind that the subconscious looks to receive all its impressions. Upon it, the subconscious mind must rely for the collaborative effort necessary to yield successful results. One would scarcely expect victory from an army, regardless of the caliber of its soldiers, if its commander failed to plan ahead, doubted his own capabilities as well as those of his troops, and consumed his time worrying about the adversary rather than devising means to conquer them. Nor would one expect exceptional performance from an athletic team whose pitcher remained at variance with the catcher. In like manner, one cannot expect favorable outcomes from the subconscious when the conscious mind is consumed by fear and anxiety, or when it remains uncertain of its desires. The paramount duty of your conscious mind is to focus your thoughts entirely upon your desires, while resolutely barring the door against any suggestion of fear, anxiety, or affliction. Once you acquire the ability to accomplish this, no achievement remains beyond your grasp. For the subconscious mind does not employ inductive reasoning. It accepts the thoughts transmitted to it and develops them to their logical conclusion. Transmit to it thoughts of health and vigor, and it will manifest health and vigor within your physical form. Should suggestions of infirmity, apprehension of illness, or accident penetrate this domain, whether through your own reflections or the discourse of those around you, you are highly likely to witness the physical manifestation of disease within yourself. Your mind is the master of your physical body. It directs and regulates every bodily function. Your body is, in effect, a microcosm, and the mind is its radiating center, the sun that imparts light and vitality to your entire system, and around which the whole revolves. And your conscious thought, in turn, reigns supreme over this solar center. As Émile Coué states, the conscious mind can guide the subconscious over its hurdles. The subconscious mind can you determine the precise quantities of water, salt, and various other elements required in your bloodstream to maintain its proper specific gravity during a sedentary existence? Do you know how significantly and how rapidly these proportions must be adjusted when you engage in a vigorous game of tennis, hasten to catch a vehicle, chop wood, or partake in any other strenuous physical exertion? Are you aware of the volume of water required to neutralize the excess salinity in salted fish, or how much fluid is lost through perspiration? Do you know what precise quantities of water, salt, and other nutrients from your food, must be absorbed daily into your bloodstream to sustain impeccable health? You do not. Rest assured, this need not cause you concern. Indeed, no one else possesses this knowledge either, not even the most eminent physicists, chemists, and mathematicians. Yet, your subconscious mind is fully aware. It does not require pause to calculate these requirements. It executes them almost automatically. It is, in essence, an instantaneous calculator. And this is but one of thousands of such operations it performs during every hour of the day. The nation's most brilliant mathematicians and renowned chemists could not, in a year's time, resolve the abstruse problems that your subconscious mind solves every minute. Furthermore, it is of no consequence whether you have ever studied mathematics, chemistry, or any of the other sciences. From the moment of your birth, your subconscious mind has resolved all these complex equations on your behalf. While you were struggling to master the basic rudiments of education, it was solving problems that would have left your instructors astonished. It oversees all the intricate processes of digestion, assimilation, and elimination, as well as glandular secretions that would tax the collective knowledge of every chemist and laboratory in the nation. It designed and constructed your physical frame from infancy onward. It repairs it. It operates it. It possesses virtually unlimited power, not only to establish and maintain perfect health, but also to secure all the beneficial things that life has to offer. Ignorance of this power is the primary cause of failure in this world. Were you to intelligently entrust to this extraordinary power all your professional and personal affairs, in the same manner that you yield to it the mechanism of your physical body, no aspiration would be too lofty for you to achieve. Dr. George Calvin Pitzer eloquently summarizes the power of the subconscious mind in the following passage. The subconscious mind is a distinct entity. It occupies the entirety of the human body, and, when unopposed, exerts absolute control over all bodily functions, conditions, and sensations. While the objective mind governs all voluntary functions and movements, the subconscious mind regulates all silent, involuntary, and vegetative processes. Nutrition, waste, all secretions and excretions, the action of the heart and blood circulation, the lungs and respiration, and all cellular life, change, and development are decisively under the absolute dominion of the subconscious mind. This was the sole mind possessed by animals prior to the evolution of the cerebrum. It was and remains incapable of inductive reasoning, yet its capacity for deductive reasoning is flawless. Furthermore, it can perceive without the aid of physical eyes. It perceives through intuition. It possesses the capacity to communicate with others without relying upon conventional physical means. It can discern the thoughts of others. It receives information and transmits it to individuals at a distance. Spatial separation presents no obstacle to the successful operations of the subconscious mind. It is immortal. We designate this as the soul mind. It is the living soul. In Practical Psychology and Sex Life by David Bush, Dr. Winbigler is cited as advancing even further. To quote him directly, "It is this mind that conducts the work of assimilation and development while we sleep. It reveals to us matters of which the conscious mind has no conception until their actual realization. It can communicate with other minds without relying on conventional physical channels. It obtains glimpses of realities that physical sight cannot behold. It renders the presence of the divine an actual, realizable truth, and preserves the individual personality in a state of peace and tranquility. It warns of impending danger. It approves or disapproves of our conduct and discourse. It executes all the benevolent directives entrusted to it, provided the conscious mind does not intervene and alter the course of its manifestation. It restores the physical body and preserves its health, should it receive the slightest encouragement. It is, in brief, the most potent force in life, and, when properly directed, the most beneficent. Yet, akin to an active electrical conduit, its capacity for destruction is commensurately vast. It may serve either as one's servant or one's master. It can yield either malevolence or virtue. The Reverend William Thomas Walsh, in a recently published volume, elucidates this concept with admirable clarity. Our subconscious faculty is termed the subjective mind, owing to the fact that it neither deliberates nor commands. It is a subject rather than a sovereign. Its inherent nature is to execute what it is directed to do, or what one truly desires in the depths of one's heart. The subconscious mind governs all the vital processes of the physical form. One does not consciously contemplate respiration. With every breath taken, there is no requirement to reason, decide, or command. The subconscious mind superintends this function. Indeed, the reader remains entirely oblivious to the act of breathing while perusing these lines. The same principle applies to the mind and the circulation of the blood. The heart is a muscle, akin to the muscle of the arm. It possesses no autonomous power to initiate movement or govern its own action. Only mind, only an entity capable of thought, can direct our musculature, including the heart. One is not conscious of commanding the heart to beat. The subconscious mind attends to this duty. Thus it is likewise with the assimilation of nutrients and the construction and repair of the physical structure. In truth, every vital process is overseen by the subconscious mind. Mankind lives, moves, and has its very being within this vast subconscious intellect. It provides that intuition which so frequently guides a woman directly to a conclusion that might require hours of laborious reasoning for a man to attain. Even in mundane, daily affairs, one frequently draws upon this wondrous wisdom, albeit in an inadvertent manner, without realizing the nature of the act. Consider the case of Blind Tom, of whom the reader has likely heard or read. He possessed the ability to listen to a musical composition for the first time and immediately reproduce it upon the pianoforte. Society deems such a talent abnormal. Yet, in truth, he was in this regard far more normal than the rest of humanity. It is we who are abnormal because we lack this capacity. Or consider the phenomenon of lightning calculators of whom one occasionally reads. Though the individual may be a child of a mere 7 or 8 years, one might request him to divide 7,649.437 by 326.2568, and he will provide the quotient in less time than is required to record the figures upon paper. He is deemed phenomenal, yet we ourselves ought to possess the same capability. The subconscious mind is indeed capable of it. Dr. Hudson, in his treatise The Law of Psychic Phenomena, recounts numerous instances of such prodigies. A few examples will suffice. Of mathematical prodigies, there have been more than a score whose calculations have surpassed, in swiftness and precision, those of the most highly educated mathematicians. These prodigies performed their most astonishing feats while still young children, between the ages of 3 and 10. In no instance did these youths possess any comprehension of how they performed their calculations, and some would converse upon unrelated subjects while solving the equations. 2 of these boys eventually attained eminence as men, whereas others exhibited only a rudimentary degree of objective intelligence. Whately remarked upon his own gift in the following terms: "There was certainly something peculiar in my calculating faculty. It began to manifest itself between the ages of 5 and 6, and persisted for approximately 3 years. I soon succeeded in performing the most difficult computations, invariably in my head, for I possessed no knowledge of figures beyond simple numeration. I performed these calculations far more rapidly than anyone could upon paper, and I have no recollection of ever committing the slightest error. When I entered school, at which time this passion subsided, I proved to be a veritable dunce at ciphering, and have remained so ever since. Professor Safford subsequently became an astronomer. At the age of 10, he correctly resolved a multiplication problem, the product of which consisted of 36 digits. In later years, he was incapable of performing such feats. Benjamin Hall Blythe, at the age of 6, inquired of his father as to the hour of his birth. He was informed that he had been born at 4 o'clock. Consulting the clock to ascertain the current hour, he promptly informed his father of the exact number of seconds he had lived. His father performed the calculation and remarked to Benjamin, "You are in error by 172,000 seconds." The child replied, "Oh, father, you have omitted 2 days for the leap years of 1820 and 1824, which indeed was the case. Furthermore, there is the celebrated case of Zerah Colburn, of whom Dr. Schofield writes, Zerah Colburn could instantaneously declare the square root of 106,929 to be 327, and the cube root of 268,336,125 to be 645. Before the question regarding the number of minutes in 48 years could even be committed to paper, he replied 25,228,810. He immediately provided the factors of 247,483 as 941 and 263, which are indeed the only two. Upon being asked for those of 36,083, he replied that there were none, as it is a prime number. He was unable to explain how these answers entered his mind, nor could he perform simple multiplication or division upon paper. The time will surely come when, as Herbert George Wells envisioned in his Men Like Gods, schools and instructors will no longer be necessary, save to demonstrate how we may align ourselves with the infinite knowledge that our subconscious minds possess from infancy. The most intelligent man in the world, asserts Dr. Frank Crane in a recent article in Liberty, is the man inside. By the man inside, I refer to that other persona within each of us who performs most of the actions for which we attribute credit to ourselves. One may designate him as nature or the subconscious self, or conceive of him merely as a force or a natural law. Or, if religiously inclined, one may employ the term God. I assert that he is the most intelligent being in the world. I know him to be infinitely more clever and resourceful than I, or any other man of whom I have ever heard. When I lacerate my finger, it is he who summons the microscopic phagocytes to destroy the septic pathogens that might otherwise invade the wound and cause septicemia. It is he who coagulates the blood, seals the wound, and knits the new tissue. I possess no such capability, nor do I even comprehend how he achieves it. He performs this office even for infants who possess no conscious understanding whatsoever. Indeed, he does so far more effectively for them than for me. No living mortal possesses the knowledge required to make toenails grow. Yet the man inside effortlessly generates nails, teeth, and thousands of hairs upon my body, long strands upon my scalp, and fine, downy growth across the remainder of my skin. When I practice upon the piano, I am merely transferring the execution of musical performance from my conscious mind to my subconscious mind. In other words, I am delegating the task to the man inside. The greater part of our happiness, as well as our conflicts and misery, originates from this man inside. If we cultivate in him habits of contentment, adaptability, and decisiveness, he will precede us like an obedient servant, effortlessly performing the most arduous tasks we are called upon to complete. Dr. Jung, the celebrated Viennese specialist, asserts that the subconscious mind contains not only all the knowledge accumulated during the lifetime of the individual, but also the collective wisdom of past generations. Furthermore, by drawing upon this reservoir of wisdom and power, the individual may acquire any desirable attribute in life, from health and happiness to wealth and success. Thus, the subconscious mind serves as the connecting link between the Creator and ourselves, between the universal mind and our conscious intellect. It is the medium through which we may appropriate for ourselves all the benevolent gifts, the wealth, and the abundance that the universal mind has created in such profuse measure. Berthelot, the illustrious French progenitor of modern synthetic chemistry, once observed in a missive to an intimate confidant that the ultimate experiments culminating in his most extraordinary discoveries were by no means the product of meticulously pursued and logical sequences of thought. Rather, they manifested spontaneously, as it were, from the ether. Charles M. Barrows, in Suggestion Instead of Medicine, asserts that if man requires a consciousness other than his ordinary awareness to sustain him during slumber, this identical psychical provision is no less invaluable when he is awake. Numerous individuals possess the capacity to acquire knowledge that does not arrive through the customary sensory channels, but instead enters the mind via direct communion from another conscious intelligence, which seemingly possesses a superior understanding of their welfare than does their mundane intellect. I have been acquainted with several individuals who, much like myself, could discern the contents of correspondence prior to opening the envelopes. Several years ago, an associate of mine journeyed to Boston for the first time, arriving at what was then the Providence Railway Terminal in Park Square. He desired to proceed on foot to the Lowell station on the opposite side of the city. Being entirely unacquainted with the thoroughfares and lacking any knowledge of the general direction to pursue, he confidently set forth without seeking guidance, and reached his destination by the most direct route. In so doing, he relied exclusively upon what he termed instinctive guidance, rather than upon any indications or clues garnered through physical perception. The luminaries of literature, art, commerce, statecraft, politics, and invention are, according to scientific observers, merely ordinary individuals akin to you and me, who have somehow learned to draw upon the resources of their subconscious minds. Sir Isaac Newton is reputed to have acquired his extraordinary comprehension of mathematics and physics without conscious exertion. Mozart remarked of his exquisite symphonies that they simply materialized within his mind. Descartes received no conventional or structured education. To quote Dr. Hudson, "This is a power that transcends reason and remains independent of induction." Exemplars of its development might be multiplied indefinitely. Sufficient evidence exists to warrant the conclusion that when the soul is liberated from its objective environment, it will be enabled to perceive all the laws of its being, beholding God as He is through the perception of the laws He has instituted. It is the awareness of this capacity that demonstrates our true relationship to God, which confers the warranty of our right to the title of children of God, and confirms our inheritance of our rightful share of His attributes and powers, our heirship of God, joint heirship with Jesus Christ. Our subconscious minds are immense magnets, endowed with the capacity to attract from the universal mind limitless knowledge, boundless power, and infinite riches. Considered from the perspective of its operations, observes Warren Hilton in Applied Psychology, the subconscious is that province of the mind which, on one hand, directs the vital physiological operations of the body, and, on the other, preserves, subject to the summons of interest and attention, all ideas and complexes not currently active within conscious awareness. Consider, therefore, the profound potential that lies before you. On one hand, should you succeed in governing the subconscious activities of your mind, you can regulate the functioning of your physical body, thereby ensuring physiological efficiency and liberating yourself from functional disorders. On the other hand, if you can dictate precisely which ideas shall be elevated from the subconscious to the conscious plane, you may thereby select the very materials from which your conscious judgments, decisions, and emotional dispositions will be fashioned. To master one's mind is, consequently, to secure health, prosperity, and happiness. Yet, few fully comprehend or appreciate that this vast repository of knowledge and power within the subconscious mind may be accessed at will. On occasion, through rigorous concentration or fervent desire, we inadvertently penetrate the domain of the subconscious and impress our thoughts upon it. Such thoughts are almost invariably realized in fact. The misfortune is that, all too frequently, it is our negative thoughts, our apprehensions that find entry, and these are realized with the same unerring certainty as our positive thoughts. What you must resolve to do is learn to convey to your subconscious mind only those thoughts you wish to see manifest, for it is exceedingly receptive to suggestion. You are perhaps familiar with the anecdote of the gentleman who constantly boasted of his robust health, and upon whom several associates decided to perpetrate a jest. The first individual he encountered one morning remarked upon his sickly appearance and inquired if he were indisposed. Subsequently, all other acquaintances who met him offered similar observations. By midday, the gentleman had been persuaded of their claims, and before the day's conclusion, he had succumbed to actual illness. This represents a particularly vivid illustration of the phenomenon. Yet, comparable occurrences take place daily within our own lives. We partake of some sustenance that another person deems harmful, and shortly thereafter, we perceive ourselves to be in pain. In short order, we suffer from indigestion, whereas the likelihood is that, had we remained ignorant of the food's alleged harmful properties, we might have consumed it for the remainder of our lives without ever experiencing discomfort. Consider when a novel malady is identified and its symptoms detailed in the daily press. Hundreds will immediately succumb to its perceived symptoms. They resemble the individual who, upon reading a medical compendium, concluded that he suffered from every affliction therein, with the sole exception of housemaid's knee. Purveyors of proprietary medicines recognize this power of suggestion and profit from it handsomely. Peruse one of their advertisements. Unless you find yourself believing that you suffer from every ailment their nostrums are purported to remedy, you are the exception rather than the rule. Such is the deleterious aspect of this power. Émile Coué predicated his system upon the beneficial aspect, advising that one suggests to the subconscious mind that whatever maladies it perceives are steadily improving. And this is indeed sound psychology. Appropriately applied, it yields extraordinary results. Yet far superior methodologies exist, and I trust one shall be able to demonstrate these to you before we conclude this volume. For the present, it suffices to say that your subconscious mind is exceptionally wise and powerful, that it possesses knowledge far exceeding that which is contained in written volumes, that, when properly directed, it possesses infallible judgment and inexhaustible power, that it neither slumbers nor tires. Your conscious mind may rest. It may be rendered insensible by anesthetics or a sudden blow. Yet, your subconscious mind continues its labor, tirelessly maintaining the operation of your heart, lungs, arteries, and glands. Under normal circumstances, it attends faithfully to its duties, leaving the conscious mind to govern the external life of the physical form. However, should the conscious mind encounter a situation with which it cannot cope, and should it but appeal to the subconscious, that potent genie will instantly respond to its summons. You may have heard individuals who survived great peril recount how, when confronted with imminent death and seeming helplessness, their senses failed them, and upon regaining consciousness, the danger had been averted. In that moment of dire necessity, their subconscious mind supplanted the conscious mind, confronting and overcoming the threat. Impelled by this inner intelligence, their physical bodies achieved feats utterly impossible to their ordinary conscious selves. For the power of the subconscious mind is indeed limitless. Whatever you must accomplish in any righteous cause, it can endow you with the strength and the capability to perform. Whatever goodness you may desire, it can deliver to you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The universal mind. Have you ever unearthed a potato vine and observed the tubers clustered beneath? What degree of intelligence do you suppose one of these potatoes possesses? Do you imagine it has any knowledge of chemistry or geology? Can it determine how to extract carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and water along with all necessary nutrients from the surrounding soil to synthesize them into sugar, starch, and alcohol? No chemist possesses the capability to replicate this feat. By what means does one suppose the potato acquires this knowledge? Assuredly, it does not. It is devoid of conscious intellect. Nonetheless, it accomplishes all these functions. It organizes the starch into cellular structures, and those cells into roots, vines, foliage, and ultimately further tubers. Merely the work of Mother Nature, one might contend. Yet, Mother Nature must possess an extraordinary intellect if she can resolve all these complexities which no human scientist has ever succeeded in deciphering. There must exist an all-pervading intelligence behind nature, the very intelligence that first introduced life to this planet, that evolved every form of flora and fauna, that holds the winds within its grasp, and that is omniscient and omnipotent. The humble potato is but a singular, modest manifestation of this supreme intelligence. The diverse forms of plant life, of animal species, and of humanity are all mere components within the grand design of the universe. Yet there remains this crucial distinction. Mankind is an active participant in this universal mind. He partakes of its creative wisdom and power. Thus, by working in harmony with the universal mind, he is capable of achieving anything, possessing anything, and becoming anything. There resides within you, and indeed within every individual, this mighty, irresistible force, by means of which you can execute endeavors that will confound your reason and overwhelm your imagination. There permanently dwells within you a mind that is omniscient and omnipotent, a mind entirely distinct from the intellect you consciously employ in your daily affairs, yet which is fundamentally unified with it. Your subconscious mind shares in this wisdom and power, and it is through this subconscious faculty that you may draw upon those forces to attain whatever you might desire. Once you learn to access your subconscious mind with understanding, you can establish communication with the universal mind. Bear this in mind. The universal mind is omnipotent. And as the subconscious mind constitutes a part of the universal mind, there is no limit to the achievements it can realize when granted the authority to. Do you want access to this and all the complete audiobooks on the channel, plus the ebook version? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code in the left corner of the screen to access our library, where you can listen to your favorite esoteric books without ad interruptions, lock your screen, or use other apps while the narration plays, and even download the ebook version to follow along as you listen. Listen on your computer via web browser, or download the app from the Play Store. After subscribing, you will receive an email with your login details, password, and step-by-step instructions on how to access the books through the Hotmart app.